going on, Ramley? What's up, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny, hosted by myself, Ryan Dyrud, and of course, the unflappable Ryan Skinny T. Anderson, talking all things Rams here. Tough loss to the Niners, but hey, we've got some good things to take out of it. We're going to get all into it and give you guys our take on the Rams Skinny. What's up, Skinny T? How we doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, if the Rams fans can't get excited about anything in a loss, you got Puka Nacua setting records. He's on pace to shatter records if he keeps going like this. I'm not saying he's gonna, but he's on pace to. He's going to break Cooper Kupp's record. He could break all the receptions and yards. So, that's something to take home, isn't it, Rams fans?
Nuts, man. It's honestly nuts what he's doing. And, you and I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure you were too, but when we did our live kind of draft show during the draft, and I was pretty actually excited about this draft pick because I'm pretty sure I'm not one I want to sit here and pat myself in the back, but I'm pretty sure I said he reminds me a little bit of Cooper Kupp because of what he's able to do in terms of, he's able to carry the ball in the backfield if you want to do some jet sweeps with him. He's got the same body type. He's not the fastest, not the most athletic looking, but he's a guy that's just going to be productive. And there basically has been no one in the NFL almost outside of Justin Jefferson that's been more productive than Puka Nacua through 2 weeks. So pretty impressive stuff what this young man is doing.
I do remember you having that take, and my take was who? And I think most people were in my camp when that happened, but everybody knows his name now. Everybody's picking him up on their fantasy teams. I logged my very first fantasy football win of my career, which is exactly 2 games long in fantasy football. Yes, folks, I've only played 2 games of fantasy football in my life, but I got my first victory. I'm 1-1. So Puka Nacua is not on my team, but I'm proud of myself.
40 years old, and you're finally on the fantasy train. Is Puka? I'm in 3 leagues. I can't remember if it's our league that I got Puka, that I got him on the waiver wire, or another one, but I definitely have Puka in 1 league. He's like projected now to get like 15 points a game, which is wild. 5th, 6th round pick. Nobody knew who he was, and now he's projected like a top 5 fantasy receiver, which is wild.
It's incredibly wild. Yeah. It's well, and it's great. If you think about it, you got Cooper Kupp on this team, 3rd round pick, and you got Puka Nacua on this team, who could, in theory, just go off this season as maybe one of the best wide receiver tandems when and if Cooper Kupp comes back healthy.
Yeah. That's the exciting thing. It's like Cooper Kupp's coming back eventually. Cooper Kupp will be back, and all of a sudden this receiving. We may see. We're going to get to the game here in a second, but we may see Van Jefferson not like getting reps anymore because he's been kind of a disappearing act. I think part of that, and I'd love to get your take, but part of it is he's almost kind of been used as a decoy in a way that's freed stuff up for Puka and Tutu. But once Kupp's back, you're going to play Kupp, Tutu, and Puka Nacua, and Van Jefferson might be the odd man out, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, my take at that draft party that I guess it was just you and I don't know how much of a party that is, but
hey, that's a party, baby.
Yeah. Where 2 or more are gathered, as they say. Right. My first thought was this is a succession plan for Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson on the final deal of his rookie deal, heading into his next year in 2024. Once the season starts, he's going to be 28 years old. So we're getting ahead of ourselves talking about 2024 already, but it's working. Like it seems like that's what it's working out to be.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think Van at this point for sure this year has a place, but yeah, once Cooper Kupp's back, if he's only getting 2-3 targets a game, it's hard to see him having a very viable role, but we'll get to that point when we get there. Let's talk a little bit about this game. Rams, unfortunately, fall short yet again of the Niners, 30-23. We're going to get all into, the numbers, what we liked, what we didn't like, all that good stuff. But just off the top, Skinny, I'd love to hear just your overall, just overarching thoughts of the game. And I'll start, they say all the time, there's no moral victories, you play to win the game, yada, yada. And it's been probably talked about ad nauseum already. Here we are on Tuesday. So I'm sure a lot of other podcasters, a lot of other media has talked about it. But to me, this was a moral victory. And, people can hate on all they want. Niners fans can laugh about it all they want. Rams have the one meaningful victory in the playoffs. I know that's what Rams fans always come back with, which is true and great. But coming in this year with so much unknown, so much youth, so much inconsistencies at certain positions, this to me, not because they only lost by 7, but the way they played this game overall, there was definitely some things I didn't like that we're going to get into, but overall, they were able to actually go for punch with the Niners in what I felt like was the first time, really even ever. Even the game they won in the playoffs, like there was some moments there where it was oh man, here we go again, where the Niners were just gashing them on certain things and the offense could do nothing. And then they had some big plays come through, obviously, in some big time moments from their best players that got the victory. But this is the one game that outside of like a drive or two, I felt like the defense was played really well and controlling, didn't fully stop the Niners, but controlling them. And the offense overall moved the ball pretty well. I mean, you take away those 2 interceptions, which obviously everyone's, they say almost only matters in atom bombs and hand grenades or something.
Horseshoes
But
and hand grenades. That's the one I know.
there we go.
Yeah.
There you go. So you can't, that's part of it, but ball bounces off Kyren Williams' hands. That takes at least 3 points off the board because they were in the red zone almost. And then the other one, it looked like the receiver broke on his route wrong or whatever when that second interception. So you take those out. I mean, the Rams could have had a shot to win this game. So long-winded answer, but I just feel like I felt really good about the way the Rams played against this seemingly top 3 roster in the entire NFL. And there's just a lot of good things about this team moving forward. What was your overall thoughts?
What makes you feel good is it looked like this team is continuing to be physical and bullying other teams on both sides of the ball, really. You saw that running game really take off. You saw the physicality of Steve Avila on the offensive line, and the whole offensive line as a whole played really well in the first couple of quarters at the very least. And you saw McVay just taking a methodical approach. And I'll caveat this by saying in the first half, by just marching the ball down the field, ball control, just punching the Niners in the mouth over and over again, keeping that pretty formidable defense in check, keeping them honest, making them respect the run, which opens up space in the passing game. That's not only is it something that we haven't seen from the Rams in 49ers games in the past, but that's how the 49ers have beat the Rams over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of big explosive plays. They'll break something here or there, but really what the 49ers have always done is just paper cuts. And, it's like the big brother taking your hand and just hitting you in the face. Stop hitting yourself kind of a thing. Yeah. And they would just march down the field that way. And that's what the Rams were doing for a good chunk of this game. So I think that what the Rams fans should feel good about is that it is a departure from what they had done in the past and kept them in the game, kept them tied. And, I was looking at power rankings this morning. Athletic has the Rams at number 9. I think they had them at 26 to begin the season. So this Rams team is gaining respect from media across the country, and they should be, because they're doing some really interesting things on offense, and they're doing it with physicality as well. And as we were talking about with Puka Nacua, like, he's showing that he is that physical style of receiver that they used to have in Robert Woods. Yeah. They still have, Cooper Kupp still is a blocker. But that's what McVay has always liked, is a blocking wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And just to put some numbers to kind of what you're alluding to, in the offense being able to kind of give those death by 1,000 paper cuts and move down the field, like, the numbers tell you the Rams actually probably should have won this game if not for the turnover differential. I mean, they had 23 more yards, so 386 to 365. They had 7 more first downs. They were much more efficient on third down, 7 out of 14, where the Niners were 2 out of 9. They had 24 more plays than the Niners, 78 to 54. They only allowed 1 sack, and they only punted twice in this whole game. So you look at those numbers. I mean, it was a very well coached, well game planned, well executed game. In reality, it comes down to probably those 2 interceptions. And that's why it's a 7-point loss instead of potentially a 3 or 7-point win. So, it's unfortunate because I think that one slipped away, and that's what we'll get to now. Maybe some of the negatives, or maybe just one big negative as to why it slipped away outside of the interceptions. But from a standpoint of looking at the good things, the efficiency, the play calling, the execution wise, I mean, this was a very well played game for the Rams. They honestly, the more I look at it, they probably should have won, and it's unfortunate they didn't. But at least we can take all those goods and progress forward, and they'll get another crack at it to maybe end this streak up in Santa Clara. So pretty impressive though. I mean, didn't really fully look at those numbers till right now. They basically beat the Niners in almost every single statistical category.
Yeah, no, it felt that way, and I think that this game played out. What's shocked people about this game is the Niners came into the season with such high expectations, favorites to win the Super Bowl, odds on, picked by a lot of people to go to the Super Bowl for good reason, great roster, and this Rams team came in with such low expectations, no expectations. Some people thinking that they were going to fall off the face of the earth. And coming out of this game, I'm thinking if they win 9-10 games, Sean McVay should be coach of the year.
100%. 100%.
So just the flipping of the script is what people are shocked by at this point. That a team that has such low expectations can come in and go toe-to-toe with a team like the 49ers for most of the game. And that's exactly what they did. We were talking about some of the negatives. One of the things that I liked about Sean McVay's effort against Seattle is he stuck with the run. And it's a different game because they were leading at different points. And so the strategy is a bit different, but going into halftime, this one was tied. And, we were talking a little bit pre-show, but the Rams were running the ball very efficiently in the first half. Mm-hmm. Kyren Williams ran the ball 10 times in the first half. He finished the game with 14 carries. So, I'm no math expert, but that's 4 carries in the second half. And those weren't, there was obviously no respect paid to those carries because he didn't end up making much, picking up any big gains really necessarily with those carries. And one of the things that changed from first half to second half is that the 49ers started blitzing more because they weren't getting the pressure that they wanted to see. So they started sending 1 or 2 more guys. And that's the time that running game can be really effective. If you stick with it. So, McVay kind of went back to h's playbook instead of incorporating LaFleur's playbook. And I think that's something that I hate to say it, but that's one of the things that slowed them down is he wanted to come out in that second half and just blow the doors off the thing instead of just keep doing the methodical 3 yards, 4 yard carry, pounding it, and I think we saw it. 55 throws from Stafford. You're kind of forcing it at that point,
Exactly. And, we said on the pre-show that, I thought if they ran the ball 30 times, they'd have a real good shot to actually compete and win this game. They ran it 21 times, 25 if you include Stafford's 4 scrambles that he had, but I never include those. So 21 rushes to 55 passes, and you're tied at halftime. You're seemingly in the game the entire time, within 1 score until the final 12 minutes when the Niners went up by 2 scores. And so, yeah, that was the one thing that was like, oh man, here we go again, back to those old tendencies of I don't want to say panicking, but just, becoming just so one dimensional that the defense knows what's coming. And I mean, Stafford, again, there's 2 picks. I wouldn't put totally on Stafford by any means, but the defense, when you're dropping back every single time, it allows that vaunted pass rush to to really, pin their ears back and go. Now the offensive line and Kyren Williams has proven to be a tremendous pass blocker as a running back, did their job still. I mean, only one sack still, but Matthew Stafford was definitely more rushed in that second half and had to make decisions quicker. And, obviously the efficiency in the passing game in terms of completions versus incompletions, I think went up a little bit. And so the way you alleviate that is, running the football. And so that was my one big negative is like, man, if they could have just stuck to the run, 9 more rushes would have put them at 30, which is that sweet spot. I always say, get to 30 rushes and this team can beat anyone.
Yeah, and I think what I think it is about McVay is he knows what an explosive play can do, and he knows his offense is capable of it. But it's a matter of being patient and picking those spots correctly. And I think that's what was lacking in the second half. I think that those interceptions, there's miscues across the board, and people are kind of parsing: was it Stafford's fault? Was it Van Jefferson's fault? Was it Kyren's fault? This is a team sport. Interception is an interception. It's what cost them a W. And, there's no moral victories, but what would have been huge for this fan base and for this team is if they sent the 49ers back to the Bay Area packing with a big L on them, that would have been the real moral victory. An
actual victory.
Yeah. And I think this team, everybody keeps talking about the good vibes around it. And it's just like, listen, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm yelling at kids to get off my lawn. I ain't got time for talk about vibes. These kids are half my age, I could be their father, whatever. But, I think that, McVay will shoot himself in the foot. And he's done it over and over again. And I think that one of the things that will help him is having that tandem, because in that NFC Championship game where they came out with a victory, there were 2 100-yard receivers, Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
And that little bit of diversity in that, rather than just peppering Cooper Kupp over and over again, that's what allows you to get that 3 to 7 point edge over a divisional rival as good as the 49ers.
Just sticking with the run game for a second, and we'll get to Cam Akers before we wrap the show up, who obviously probably will no longer be a Ram, potentially might be gone before this show is even published, but definitely doesn't seem like he'll ever play again in a Rams uniform, whether he's traded this week or not. So we'll get to that in a minute. But does it surprise you that no other running back even ran the ball? Kyren Williams had 14 carries, and then Ben Skowronek and Tutu Atwell each had 1, and Puka Nacua had 2. Does it surprise you that Ronnie Rivers, obviously Zach Evans was out as a scratch or as a injured scratch, but you had Ronnie Rivers and Royce Freeman on the roster? Does it surprise you that none of them even got a carry?
Kyren Williams didn't get the call that he was going to be the lead back until Saturday. Yeah. So I think his effort in this game was phenomenal, even with such short notice.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like on like a, are you flipping through the playbook, like learning things at the last minute? I don't know. Hopefully he's prepared better than I would be. But
that's why the saying goes, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. So he obviously has been staying ready.
Yeah, obviously. So I, in a way, I'm not exactly surprised by that, just because the everything shifted just so quickly, and it seemed, from just kind of reading the tea leaves and reading in between the lines and trying to parse out what is coach speak and just what's how this all kind of unfolded over just a few hours, is it seems like this is a McVay decision. I think this is coming directly from him. So, in that way, I'm not terribly surprised that we didn't see all those running backs playing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not terribly surprised. I thought Ronnie Rivers. I didn't even say Ronnie Rivers, who is actually technically the or did I say Ronnie Rivers? I don't know. But anyway, Ronnie Rivers, okay, was the technically RB2 going into this game, and he did get some playing time, got a reception as well, just no carries. So I'm a little surprised. At least, I'm not saying give him the lion's share, but if we run the ball a few more times, you got Kyren 14, maybe get some lather on Ronnie for 2 or 3, just to give some different looks to that defensive front, I think.
Well, it's one of those mysteries about McVay. Like, what is his running? What is his personality when it comes to the running game? Is it the guy last year where he said, "I feel like I'm wasting plays"? I know I've used that quote in several articles and I think back-to-back weeks now, but it's just a shocking thing to say as an offensive play caller.
Mm-hmm.
All the nerds are going to tell you that throwing the ball is a more efficient way to move the ball down the field, but you've got this other aspect that other teams are using to great success. I mean, the Jets, the only success that the Jets are having at this point is through the running game. Breece Hall is a beast. And obviously the Rams don't have Breece Hall on their roster, but you're just looking at McVay and how he's creatively used the running game. You like, if you're in this situation, like, go to Skowronek and say, "Hey man, remember when you played fullback last year? Well, get ready.
Stay ready
for you." Yeah.
Let's just
Go ahead.
let's do it for Kyren for a second, because I've been so impressed by his play. When he was drafted last year, we were both very excited. Super bummed he got hurt in OTAs, but thought that this is a guy that could become the bell cow back, a Golden Domer. You're a Notre Dame alum there. And becomes, I can't remember the exact stat, but one of the first second-year players with back-to-back games with multiple touchdowns or some crazy thing like that. And, I love how involved he's been. Again, I would love to see him get even more carries, but I loved how involved he's been in the run game, but also the pass game. Like, it's almost like similar to Todd Gurley-esque. And I don't want to jump to that too quickly because Todd Gurley obviously was great when here, but we haven't seen a back since Todd Gurley in this system that's been utilized at that frequency in both the run and the pass. They've flirted with it, but Darrell Henderson was never really that guy. Cam Akers obviously hasn't been that guy. Sony Michel wasn't that guy in the passing game. CJ Anderson wasn't that guy in the passing game. So this is the first time we've seen a running back finally get utilized in the passing game. I think he had 6 receptions, Kyren Williams did. So love seeing that. Did you see his quote that he gave yesterday, or at least that everyone was talking about yesterday?
I think I retweeted it.
You may have.
I'll
just read it for everyone because I pulled it up. So from Kyren Williams, he says, "I'm in there to pass protect, to catch the ball and run the ball and do whatever head coach Sean McVay asked me to do. This is why I love the game of football. I love the game of being a running back and all the involvement I have in the offense." That is why Cam Akers is on his way out. I don't know if I'm not saying he wouldn't do that, but when you have someone like Kyren that wants to just be involved, whatever the head coach wants, that's a guy the head coach is going to like.
Yeah, and I think that's why the decision to move on from Kyren or from Cam Akers was a sole McVay a decision, was that there are a few things that, from what I know of McVay anyway, that bug him. And I think that Laura Oakman said it best when she got the quote from Les Snead, which was, it was really about Cam Akers not doing what the coach has asked of him and lacking accountability. And that's a paraphrase. The quote's out there. But I mean, I can just imagine those two things just rubbing Sean McVay the wrong way. And we've seen them have problems in the past, and they say it's unrelated, but I mean, is it? I don't know if I believe that. And I think that Kyren, saying that, and through his actions on the field, is proving that he's willing to do those things. That it seems like maybe that those are the exact. I'm guessing that those are the exact things that Kyren Williams or Cam Akers was having quarrels with Sean McVay about.
Yeah,
and I think about Terrell Burgess, actually, oddly, in this situation, because he was drafted in the Staley system, and then Staley left, and Raheem Morris and several coaching changes and all that happened, and then he ended up not being the right fit for the Rams defense. although you and I both agree that he was a good defensive back for this team.
Mm-hmm.
He was, Cam was drafted regimes ago. It seems like ages ago that he joined this team. It hasn't been that long. He's still on his rookie contract, so it's only been a couple of years. But
I mean, Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator. God, that was so long ago.
Yeah, and he's about to get fired. So
yeah,
he's on a whole other trip right now.
Yeah.
So it's
maybe Cam goes to Minnesota.
Maybe. So it could even come down just a schematic difference, that the coaching staff has shifted so much. Guys keep getting hired off of this staff, and everything's different. And that could
sorry, go finish. Go ahead.
Well, and maybe McVay was never, full on the Cam Akers boat. They drafted him high in terms of like what the Rams draft capital has been over the last few years, but maybe he was just never that high on him, and he was an O'Connell guy or whatever.
Yeah, I'm so curious. And remember, Thomas Brown also not there anymore, former running back coach. So that's probably the biggest voice in the room that's not on his corner now, I'm guessing.
And he's proving to be a fantastic coach. I mean, he's moved up very quickly.
Thomas Brown's great. Where's he at now again? I'm drawing a blank.
It's Carolina or Arizona.
Yes, I feel like it is Carolina. We'll figure it out. But or you look it up, or I'll look it up after. But what I'm curious though, Skinny, is, and this feels like a situation of like a dating situation, which I'll give the analogy here in a second. But we know it's been reported about a lot, talked about the issues last season and why Cam Akers, missed many games as just a healthy scratch, and there was an issue. And then it seemed like they tried to mend it over the offseason. Comes into camp, he looks bigger, stronger. Coaches are all saying good things. He's saying the right things. Seems like he's going to be the guy again. Week 1, Kyren Williams gets touchdowns, but Cam Akers had 21 carries. I mean, he had the lion's share in the backfield in week 1, just not even 10 days ago, basically. And now all of a sudden, the following week, after having 21 carries, is a healthy scratch, is told on Friday, according to McVay, that they're going to move in a different direction and go with Kyren and them, and they're going to move him to another team or maybe even release him at some point. So I'm just so curious if something happened after that game, or if it was one of those relationship situations where, you've been dating someone, you feel like it's over, but you want to give it one last shot. You're like, you know what? There could be something here. I don't want to ruin it. You give it that last go, that last date, and it just falls flat. And at the end of the date, you're like, look, we gave it a go. Gave it the old college try, as they say, but it's time to part ways. I wonder if Sean McVay gave it the last date with Cam Akers against Seattle, gave him the ball as many times as possible, and then just said, you know what, I'm still going to stick with my gut and move forward. Or if something actually happened after the game during the week. That's what I'm curious about.
It's so funny you say that, because I was actually thinking that I was driving home a little bit earlier, and I was thinking exactly kind of like what dating metaphor could it be, and I was kind of going down that similar road. But then, as you're talking, I'm thinking maybe Kyren Williams is just that girl that's just a little bit more well suited for what you're looking for. And and then you're like, bye. we had some times, but
I'm on to the next.
I think I found wifey.
Yes. So anyway, we don't to touch too much on that, but Cam Akers will not be a Ram anymore, per Sean McVay, per Les Snead. They're shopping. There's been teams that have been interested. So let me ask you this last question. What do you think they can net for him? Like, is it a 7th? Is it nothing? Can they get as high as a 5th? I mean, what do you think?
6th or 7th, I think, is the highest he's going to go. Just because he's only had flashes since he's returned from his Achilles injury. Last week, I think he had something like 2.9 yards per carry. So I think McVay's poker face is not great. And this is obviously not a high leverage situation. So they might find a a friendly trading partner in Minnesota or in Seattle, or like somebody that, maybe not Seattle because they're in division, but
Yeah.
somebody that McVay knows who will flip him something for this asset. So yeah,
Yeah. I think a seventh is the highest he could get. Basically, if there's a team out there like a Minnesota, like a Cleveland, that I mean, I know Minnesota's 0-2, but obviously they have playoff aspiration. If there's a playoff team aspiration that's willing to give up a seventh for essentially a rental, because in the last year of his deal, and we know how running back contracts work, I think a team will give up a seventh. If no one's willing to take on a rookie running back, or not rookie, or a running back on their last deal, I think the Rams really have to just release him, and he'll kind of go for a team for a minimum contract of maybe a 1 to 2 year deal somewhere else where he can hopefully grow and blossom. But crazy how this all unfolded. So,
yeah.
but no longer.
So in our preview of this game, I said that Aaron Donald should have a huge game. That Aaron Donald needed to have a statement game. He had one pressure, I believe.
Yeah.
So I went back and looked at his recent games with the 49ers. One sack in the last 8 games against the 49ers. In his
Yeah.
first 5 games, he had 9.5 sacks against the
Yeah.
49ers. He had a 4-sack game. So
to his credit, and it's almost every play he's getting triple teamed. So to his
yeah,
credit, he's more of a decoy than actually a factor in that regard, or a stat factor.
I will never take anything away from the man, the
Yes.
myth, the legend. But I will say that it's kind of impressive how the 49ers have figured out some way to neutralize them and keep the rest of the pass rush at bay.
Yeah.
But
It's the only team that's been able to do it, I think, in the
I think
NFL.
so, which is which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's probably not a great place to end, but I just thought that was a fascinating set of stats there.
Yeah, it was interesting that not on the stat sheet really for anything, but did think obviously he's more of a give you opportunities for others to make plays, and I thought Kobie Turner played fairly well. I thought Byron Young played well. I know they didn't get high in the sack category, but I thought overall the front seven played pretty well. Ernest Jones led the team again in tackles with 10. Sean McVay just loves Ernest Jones, talks about his leadership and what he's able to do. So I mean that's a huge factor going forward. So.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and the defensive line was probably my biggest worry, just because there's no solid starting, front seven necessarily,
Yeah.
and they're really
Yeah.
proven themselves. They're
Hey,
not they're
Coach Henney at it again. Coach Henney at it again.
they're not
Building
setting
those
the
guys
world
up.
on fire, but they're doing enough.
Cool. So I got 3 final thoughts, and then you can give your final thought, and we'll wrap this thing up. This is the Rams Skinny with Skinny T. I'm Ryan Dyrud. 3 final thoughts, 2 quick ones. 1, Thomas Brown's with the Panthers, confirmed.
Yes.
So there's that. 2, Coach McVay, head coach of the year odds, plus 2,100, folks. Go get your bets, betonline.ag. Those are some good odds, and I really think if this team can even win 8 games, Sean McVay's got to be a lock for that. If they make the playoffs, it's done. He's winning coach of the year, in my opinion. So go put some shekels on that, plus 2,100. And then final thought, we haven't really talked too much about the offensive line. I know Stafford threw the ball 55 times, talk about the running game, but only giving up 1 sack to this arguably best defensive front in football. You could say for sure top 3. I think you got to look at the Niners, look at the Cowboys, probably the Commanders are up there in terms of defensive fronts, but they're for sure top 5, unarguable. 1 sack. I haven't looked at all the pressures. You probably have maybe that in front of you. I don't know if you do, and Joe Noteboom, who's played very well actually at guard in his two starts so far, goes out injured. I believe it's a knee bruise, a deep knee bruise. So shoulder. Thank you. So shouldn't miss too much time. May miss 1 game, but they're hoping he'll be back by next game. But Tremaine Anchorn comes in and doesn't really miss a beat. And so this is really a testament to Ryan Wendell. They've had some tutelage from the great Mike Munchak, and this unit buying in and becoming cohesive very quickly, because not only was the starting 5 good, but then you actually now have some depth able to come in and spell too. And remember, Brian Allen was a starter last year, and here's your depth center. So Coleman Shelton's played fantastic. He's a much bigger bullying center than Brian Allen was, but the fact that you have a starter as your backup, I mean, there's just some good depth on this offensive line, which is so good to see after what we saw last year. So hats off to the offensive line. Only 1 sack against the Niners. That's my final takeaway of this game.
Yeah, no, I think you tied that up nicely. I think that this offensive line deserves a lot of credit, and if you think about it, heading back into the offseason, it's like everybody's kind of thinking it's Rob Havenstein and somebody and a bunch of other people. I don't know, and these bunch of other peoples are proving to be really fantastic pieces. So I think that the thing to keep in mind is that the McVay offense or the McVay teams always start really hot.
Yeah,
they come in there, they have a bit of a slump, kind of getting around Thanksgiving time. So that's I keep saying like that we're learning about this team every week, and I think this team is changing every week. Sometimes things are getting better. Sometimes things are getting worse. Like I think in that first game, the secondary played lights out, and I think they took a little step back. But I think that, in terms of injury news, we're hearing basically everybody's healthy. Everybody's kind of ready to go. And they're not really being super cautious with Puka Nacua, which I thought they should be. But, Cooper Kupp is set to come back kind of within that 4-week window after IR. So, I think that this team is still churning and evolving and learning, and that's to be expected because they are so young. But what's proving to be true about this front office, this team in general, is their scouting ability, finding smart players, finding players that are just they're just soaking it all up, and and it's kind of amazing, and it's what you want to see. It's what's a lot of fun to see, because I'm always rooting for the late round draft picks, and we're seeing a lot of them step up. So those are my final takeaways.
There you go. Love it. Exciting stuff. Rams fall, but hey, it didn't feel like a losing episode because I think there's just so much excitement about this team and this Rams team in general. You look at the other side, the Chargers 0-2 with all this firepower, and it's doom and gloom in Chargers land. I was in a Twitter space last night at Chargers Twitter, and it's a lot of upset fans, and the Rams are 1-1, and it's all about how good can this team be with all these young guys. There's a lot of excitement, and I think that's a testament to this staff and to these players for really buying in. So, but that's all the time we got here on the Rams Skinny. We'll be back Thursday or Friday for our preview of the Bengals on primetime Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football, baby.
Big one, baby. And maybe no Joe Burrow. We'll see. I like the Rams, but hey, we'll get all into it later in the week for our preview. For Skinny T, I'm Ryan Dyrud. Thanks all for hanging out with us, Ramley. Everyone be well, be safe. Talk to you soon.